I was half awake this morning, and the words came to me, "When we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him." Now these are well-known words from Isaiah 53 verse 2, and they're speaking of the Messiah. But they came to me this morning with a different emphasis, which gave it a different dimension. The word "we" was emphasized. When we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Now, Isaiah, of course, was a Jewish prophet, and he was speaking essentially of the Jewish people. He was not saying that the nations as a whole would not desire him. After all, in the last verse of the previous chapter, chapter 52, he said that the nations would be sprinkled. That word sprinkled is used, and that's a clear reference to the blood of sacrifice, the blood of the messianic sacrifice, and that their rulers, the nation's rulers, would seriously consider the message of the Messiah. You can find that in chapter 52 at the end there. And the Messiah would be, quote, exalted and very high. All of this, of course, occurred exactly as Isaiah predicted. There was a desire for the Messiah, Jesus, in the nations, as there is to this day. Isaiah, the Jewish prophet, was saying that we, the Jewish people, would not desire him when we saw him. The Messiah would be unattractive to the Jewish mindset and expectations. When he arrived, he would not, as we say today, tick all the boxes. And we know that was precisely the reason they rejected Jesus. They couldn't convict him of sin, even when publicly challenged. You find that in John chapter 8, verse 46. And his debating constantly revealed their hypocrisy. But Jesus wouldn't go away. He hadn't attended the rabbinic schools of Jerusalem. He came from country people and now resided in the north, traditionally looked down upon as uneducated yokels by the Jerusalemites. No, Jesus did not tick all the boxes by any means. There was no beauty that we, the Jewish people, should desire him. Now, if he won't go away, they'll have to crucify him. Killing him was the only solution, if they wouldn't receive him as the Messiah, which they didn't. And to this day, Jewish rabbinic antipathy to Jesus generally remains just as virulent, even though there are wonderful examples of saving faith, praise the Lord, particularly among the non-religious Jews. The question is often raised, how will God ever convince them of the Messiahship of Jesus, particularly considering the history of the church's bad treatment of the Jewish people? Well, here's a slightly different scenario that I think could be a real possibility. A rabbi quite recently was asked, supposing the Messiah is Jesus, Yeshua, when he arrives. And the rabbi's response was, whoever comes, that'll be fine by me. And here's another interesting comment from another rabbi at another time. He said to his students that the problem with the Jews is that they've always wanted a Messiah of their own choice. And that's wrong. The time will come when we, he said, the Jews, will leave the choice to God. And he went on to say this, listen to this, the Messiah will be the last person we ever expected. The Messiah will be the last person we ever expected. Now you can imagine just what I was thinking when I heard this. So here's a suggestion. Maybe the Jews during the tribulation will not recognize Jesus as the true Messiah and invite him to return for them. They will simply be so desperate that they will forego their own expectations and leave the choice to God. It says that they will cry out, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Now that sounds very much like they're leaving the choice to God. And Jesus will arrive, the last person they ever expected.